With the Strait of Hormuz blocked due to the recent war, many industries have been hit hard, but the aviation sector is seeing the impact in real time. Airline carriers all over the world have been affected by not just the price, but the lack of the fuel for the planes and jets. And no one really knows when prices will really return back to normal. Or will they ever? So summer's coming up and it's looking like if you're someone who travels and you haven't booked your flight now, there's gonna be some roadblock later down the line. Meaning finding last minute cheap flights, you can throw that out the window. The fuel situation is making it so that ticket prices increase, flights end up canceling, baggage fees increase, and surcharges for fuel also increase. So until fuel cost reaches a reasonable price, travelers should expect some extra digits on their ticket price. For some context, February is when tension in the war disrupted oil and fuel supply chains. Prices gradually increased, but there wasn't any real signs of troubled waters. Companies didn't react to the situation in a needy way, so it remained relatively alright for the first couple of weeks. Then traders doubled it in the following months when they realized that distribution was going to last longer. To break it down, when ships carrying oil are blocked, they can't reach the refineries. Without the oil getting refined, they can't turn it into what's called crude oil. It's this oil that allows planes and jets to run. So when the supply chain gets blocked, fewer oil gets refined, making it scarce for customers, or in this case, airlines to get their hands on it, which is why traders' only option is to hike prices. But that's only one side of the coin. If we flip it over, we can see the panic that's going on the other side of the airline industry. The aviation industry is complex in a way that can get real tricky. Specifically for customers, airlines must work with airports, which must work in tandem with the rules the regulators put into effect. But like most businesses, airlines' bottom line is to cut costs while maximizing profit. Most of the top airlines didn't expect to see this situation happen, especially not right before peak season. Smaller airlines like Spirit might be impacted the most, seeing they've been struggling with managing their own operation even before the war broke out. Already on their second bankruptcy, Spirit filed for Chapter 11 on August 25th of last year. What came out of it was a restructuring plan where lenders agreed to take less money back, and creditors made new terms for repayment. The plan is set to be enacted by summer 2026, offering Spirit a fleet of about 80 planes, while Spirit concentrates on getting higher demand routes and giving customers more premium options. Other than Spirit, the way fuel costs is... So, about maybe 3 days ago, news hit that Spirit is no longer in business. They're going out of business and we don't know if they'll ever return, but they ceased operations. So as I'm editing this video, I'm just like, damn. Like, we all know Spirit's been struggling, but it's also like, damn, oil price really killed the business. Like, I mean, people definitely had their fair share of not liking the airline, but just to think about like, damn, they're just out of business like that. It's just really surprising that they couldn't really push through this oil hit, which just shows you the severity of the situation. The way fuel costs is impacting low-fare airlines is through taxes. A majority of the airlines wrote to Congress to suspend taxes and enforce a temporary tax relief. Suspension of taxes would make up for the extra fuel costs and segment fees, which is an inflation fee passengers pay for every takeoff and landing. Like the Spirit situation, Congress hasn't passed this law yet. After the airlines met with the Secretary of Transportation, he confirmed that ultimately Congress is the one that has to make the final call. If we take a step back, we can see where the US lies in terms of low-cost airlines getting hit. On the far left, you have Asia, who are coping with their hit by slightly hiking prices and rationing fuel. Then on the other side, you have Europe, who diversify how they get oil, whether it's through the different fuel pipelines or locking in fuel prices a few years before so that they can face conflicts like a fuel shortage. But I want to look at it from a micro level. This means me and you, the passengers. The thing is that when airlines increase ticket prices, where's that tax going? I'm pretty sure the average person thinks that the taxes are used to fund the airlines or the airport, which is correct, but how it's distributed is where it gets tricky. Because I, like many others, would just say, why doesn't Congress just pump in $500,000 into the aviation industry? Well, it's important to know that United, JetBlue, American Airlines, they all just act as middlemen to collect tax for the aviation's industry fund, known as the AATF. This is like the industry's piggy bank. Tax from tickets, cargo, and fuel are brought to this fund. Not only that, but they receive a yearly budget from the government through the general fund, meaning not only do passengers chip into this fund, but also regular tax-paying citizens. A portion of Americans' income tax goes into the general fund, which pays for the salaries of air traffic controllers who are part of the FAA. But let's look at people who are flying. If a ticket is $35, the tax goes to the fund first, then it's spent in two ways. 75% goes to the FAA, which is the organization that oversees all airplanes. 25% goes to airport infrastructure, which fixes runways so that planes can land smoothly. So if airlines ask to suspend taxes, this cuts into planes being unsafe to fly in the sky due to not many air traffic controllers, and airports being unsafe because they're not kept up to par. And with summer coming up, I know travelers don't want to deal with delays because of bad runways or because of mishaps due to air traffic control. The other day, I took a flight to upstate New York. The flight was 47 minutes. Again, the flight was 47 minutes. I had a meeting shortly after, but what if it took me an hour and 47 minutes to land because the runway was bad or because there was something going on in the air traffic control? I would have been upset and I would have ultimately hated it. In America, the top airlines can cope with this fuel cost. I don't know for how long, but they can manage. But that's not the case for the rest of the industry. As of right now, the government sort of went ghost on that tax relief request. I'm not sure how the aviation industry will go about dealing with this situation. Maybe they apply more pressure on their requests. Because there's only but so much tax the average flyer, me and you, would pay just to get on a flight. Again, we'll see. Well, that's my take on this situation. Comment below if you have any thoughts on this situation. All right, later.